Welcome back to the Legal Brief, the show where we crush the various legal myths and misinformation surrounding various areas of the gun world. I'm your host, Adam Kraut, and today we're talking about a new bill that would allow the government to confiscate guns.
The Dead Man's Hand cards and IQ targets from RE Factor Tactical are one of the most fun combinations for upping your game at the range. Each card has a different drill that associates with the targets, ranging from beginner to advanced. They now offer targets for rifles and longer range as well, so no matter what you're training with, they've got you covered. To get 10% off anything you order, use the code TGC10 at refactortactical.com.
Earlier this month, HR5717 was introduced in the House of Representatives. Known as the Jake Laird Act of 2018, the bill would grant $50 million. That's right, $50 million each year from 2019 through 2021 to implement its regime. Now, I know what you're all thinking, but Adam, we don't care about the money part. We want to know about the confiscation. You said confiscation, right? What about that? And for the record, I know some of you in the comments will absolutely comment about that money part. The bill gives the Attorney General of the United States the power to grant states money when they have a law in place which allows for the seizure of a firearm from a dangerous person. We've seen bills and laws like this starting to pop up nationwide, and now it appears the feds want to fund those programs. Before we get further, let's talk about definitions. What is dangerous anyway? The bill defines the term dangerous to mean several things. The one that caught my eye was the individual may present a risk of injuring him or herself or another individual, and 1, has a mental illness that may be controlled by medication, but has demonstrated a pattern of not voluntarily and consistently taking the medication except under supervision. 2, is the subject of documented evidence that would give rise to a reasonable belief that the individual has a propensity for violent or emotionally unstable conduct, or 3, poses a significant danger of personal injury to him or herself or another individual by possessing a firearm. Can you spot the problem? Here's the thought. Depression is a mental illness. Say someone stops taking their medicine or is inconsistent with it. What qualifies as emotionally unstable? And how do you determine if they pose a significant danger of injury to themselves or another? These are some really difficult questions to answer. It's a slippery slope on the way down. However, in order to receive funding, the state's laws must be substantially similar to criteria outlined in this bill. The state qualifies if the law allows for a warrant to be issued, and that's based on an affidavit from law enforcement which contains facts supporting the law enforcement officer's probable cause to believe that the individual is dangerous and in possession of a firearm, as well as the location of that firearm. It also allows funding for states which allow warrantless seizures if the law enforcement officer determines there's probable cause to believe the person is dangerous. This is only in the case of exigent circumstances, and for those that don't recall, exigent circumstances means an emergency situation which requires swift action to prevent imminent danger to life or serious damage to property, or stop the imminent escape of a suspect or destruction of evidence. The bill requires that no later than 21 days after documentation of the seizure is filed with the court, and that has to be done within 48 hours, the court shall hold a hearing to determine whether the individual is actually dangerous. If the court determines that the individual is dangerous, the court shall 1, order that the law enforcement agency maintain possession of the firearm, 2, in the case of an individual who has a license to carry a firearm, revoke that license, and 3, enter an order restraining that individual from acquiring a firearm. The court is required to give notice of the hearing to both the government and the person whose firearms were seized. At the hearing, the government has the burden of proving, by clear and convincing evidence, that the individual is dangerous and that the firearm should not be returned to them. If it's determined that the firearm seized is owned by another person, not the person from whom it was seized, the court is required to order it be returned. And as you may have guessed, if the court enters an order that the person is dangerous, they're added to the NICS database. If the person has firearms seized 180 days after that order is entered, that person can petition the court for the return of their gun. They just have to show by preponderance of the evidence that they're not dangerous. Now that's a lower evidentiary standard than what's required to actually seize the gun. If the petition's denied, the person may petition again 180 days after that denial. In instances where an order is in effect 5 years after it was entered, the court may order the agency, which has custody of that firearm, to dispose of it. The bill allows for the person to request the sale of their firearm at any point during this process. It does give the agency who has possession 1 year to sell it And of course, contains a provision to allow them to retain 8% of the proceeds to cover the costs of the sale. Alright, so let's recap. The bill grants $50 million a year to implement the theft of property from those that are deemed to be dangerous. As you can see, the definition of dangerous is one that allows for some wiggle room and may have some very serious unintended consequences. The bill currently resides in the Judiciary Committee with no action having been taken. We'll see where this one goes. Are you sick of bad information finding its way around the internet? Then you need to share this video. Make sure you hit that like button and get subscribed. If you enjoyed the video, consider supporting us via the links down in the video description. Be sure to check out the Gun Collective podcast on iTunes, and as always, thanks for watching.
The shirts worn in today's video on the Gun Collective have been provided by Patriot Patch. Closed captions have also been brought to you by Patriot Patch Company. Be sure to click the link in the video description to check out all of their great products, including their cleaning mats.